The sons became giants. Every commentary, every sermon, every YouTube video about Genesis 6 and the Book of Enoch, they all talk about the sons, the warriors, the men of renown, the Nephilim who grew to terrifying size and consumed everything the earth produced. But the Watchers did not only produce sons. Human women gave birth to daughters too, and almost nobody asks what happened to them. The silence around them is deliberate, because one ancient verse says something about them that changes everything. The Book of Enoch, chapter 7. 200 Watchers descend on Mount Hermon. They bind themselves by oath so none can back out. They take human wives. And from those unions, the text records what was born. Giants, their height terrified those who saw them. Their appetite was bottomless. The text says they consumed all that humanity produced, and when the food was gone, they turned on humanity itself. We know this part. Every student of the text knows the sons, but Enoch chapter 7 records the daughters are born too. The text does not contradict this. It simply passes over them in silence, as if the writer assumed the reader would understand something we have forgotten. And then chapter 19, after Enoch has traveled through the realms of the dead, after he has seen where the Watchers are bound, he records what the angel Uriel told him. And the women also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. Read that again slowly. Not killed, not drowned, not destroyed in the flood. Changed. The daughters of the Watchers, the female offspring of that forbidden union between angel and human, were never erased from the earth. The text says they were transformed into something else. The Greek word in the oldest surviving manuscripts is the exact same word Homer used for the creatures that lured sailors to their death. Sirens, not mythology, not legend. The ancient text states it as a direct revelation from an angel to Enoch. The women who went astray, and the daughters they bore, would not simply die. They would become beings whose voice could nullify the will of any man who heard it. Now stop and consider what this means structurally. The flood came and the bodies of the giants were destroyed. Genesis is explicit. Everything with the breath of life on dry land died. The Nephilim warriors perished under the same waters that cleansed the earth of all corruption. But Enoch chapter 15 records something most Bible readers have never heard. When the physical bodies of the Nephilim died, their spirits did not go to Sheol, did not go to judgment, did not go to the place where human spirits await resurrection. The text says they became evil spirits on the earth, disembodied, hungry, still active, still corrupting. And if that is what happened to the sons, if the male Nephilim became disembodied spirits of violence and destruction, what did the daughters become? Enoch 19 already told you. Sirens, not spirits of violence, not spirits of destruction, spirits of seduction. The male Nephilim became the spirits that drive men to violence and madness. The female Nephilim became the spirits that drive men to obsession and self-destruction through desire. And if that sounds like mythology to you, if that sounds like ancient poetry with no relevance to the world today, you have not been paying attention to what every human civilization on Earth has independently recorded. Stop and look at this. The Greeks, Homer's Odyssey. Sailors warned that their ship would pass an island inhabited by beings of supernatural beauty, female, half divine, whose voice was not music but a weapon. Every man who heard it lost control of his will. Ships crashed, men died, and the text says even Odysseus, tied to the mast, ears unblocked, fully warned, nearly tore himself free from madness at the sound. The Babylonians, the same region Genesis was written. Temple walls carved with female beings, half woman, half something from the water. The same shape, the same power. West Africa, Mami Wata, Mother Water, a being of devastating beauty who enchants men with her voice and drags them beneath the surface into a realm they never return from. The Slavs, the Rusalki, beautiful women who haunt rivers and lakes. Men hear them, men follow them, men vanish. Japan, the Ningyo, recorded in texts over 1,000 years old. A fishwoman whose flesh grants immortality, but the cost of obtaining it is everything. Irish and Scottish coasts. The Selkies, beings who shed their sealskin and walk among men as women of unearthly beauty. Men who marry them lose them to the sea every time. Civilizations separated by oceans that never traded, never communicated, never knew the others existed. All of them recorded exactly the same being. Female, connected to water, possessing a beauty and a voice that destroys men who cannot resist it. Coincidence does not explain this. Shared memory does. Let me show you something that ties all of this together in a way most teachers will not touch. Genesis 6 tells us the flood destroyed everything on dry land. Every creature, every Nephilim body, every corrupted animal and bird and reptile. But water does not destroy what lives in water. The flood covered the earth, but the deepest places of the sea were never touched by the cleansing. And Enoch chapter 7 records something that Genesis omits entirely. The Nephilim did not only corrupt other humans, the text says they corrupted the animals, the birds, the reptiles, and the fish. The corruption was not limited to humanity. It entered the entire natural world, including what lived beneath the water. Now go to the Book of Jubilees, chapter 10. After the flood, when Noah's sons began repopulating the earth, the text records that the evil spirits, the disembodied children of the Watchers, immediately began their work again, leading astray, blinding, destroying. The sons had become spirits of destruction. But the daughters had become something else entirely. And the text is not silent about what they do. They seduce, not attack, not possess, seduce. The same method the Watchers used against the daughters of men. Attraction, forbidden desire, a beauty that overrides rational will, the female Nephilim now use against the sons of men. It is the most symmetrical thing in the entire ancient record. The male angels were drawn down by desire for human women and produced offspring of violence. The female offspring were drawn upward by desire for human men and became beings whose entire existence is built around seduction. The same door opened from the other side. Stay with this, because the Bible names them directly, and the verse most people skip contains a word that has been deliberately softened in translation for centuries. Isaiah chapter 34, a passage describing the total desolation of the land of Edom after God's judgment. The prophet describes what will inhabit the ruins: wild animals, scavengers, creatures of the wasteland. And then he uses a word that translators have wrestled with for centuries. The Hebrew text reads Lilith, not an owl, not a night creature, not a screech owl as the King James renders it. The Hebrew consonants spell a name, and every Jewish tradition that predates the modern translations identifies that name as a specific female being. Some English Bibles transliterate it directly. Lilith, the ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures, the Septuagint, does not translate it as an animal at all. It uses a Greek word that means hybrid, half-creature, being of two natures. Jewish mystical texts, the Zohar, the Talmud, preserve traditions about a being named Na'amah. The texts describe her as the mother of demons, a female spirit whose entire function is seduction, appearing to men in dreams, in moments of weakness, in the space between sleep and waking. Na'amah is not described as a metaphor. The texts treat her as a real being with a real lineage, and that lineage traces directly back to the daughters born from the Watchers' unions before the flood. Lilith, Na'amah, the sirens of the Greek text of Enoch. The same figure described across traditions that should have nothing to do with each other. And the thing they all agree on, the single thread running through every account, is that these beings did not die with the flood. They are still here. Now go to the final book of the Bible, the very end of the canonical text. Revelation chapter 21. John is shown the new creation, the new heaven, the new earth, the new Jerusalem descending. Everything made right, everything restored. And among the promises of what will be no more death, no more mourning, no more crying, no more pain, John records one more thing, and the sea was no more. Of all the things the Bible could have mentioned, of all the elements of the old creation that could have been listed as passing away, the sea, why? Why would a new creation require the removal of the sea? The Hebrew scriptures use a specific word throughout, tehom, the deep. the abyss, the place where things dwell that have not yet been judged definitively. The flood cleansed the dry land. It did not cleanse the deepest places of the water. And the beings that Enoch chapter 19 said would become sirens, the spirits of those daughters, may not have been subject to a judgment that targeted what walked on land. When John says the sea was no more, he is not talking about geography. He is talking about the final closing of a door that has remained open since the days of Noah. The seducing spirits, the sirens, the daughters of the watchers who were never destroyed, only transformed. Whatever has been permitted to operate from the deep since before the flood, Revelation says that permission ends, not through a flood this time, through the complete removal of the realm they have inhabited since the beginning. The daughters of the watchers are not a footnote in the ancient record. They are the most deliberately ignored piece of the pre-flood narrative. And that ignorance is not accidental. The church talks endlessly about the giants, the violence, the corruption, the flood. But the daughters, the beings the text explicitly says were changed into something else, the beings whose fingerprints are on the mythology of every civilization that has ever walked the earth, are treated like they do not exist. They exist, the text names them, the cultures record them, and if Enoch and Jubilees are right, if the spirits of the Nephilim are still active on the earth, still corrupting, still leading astray, then the sons are not the only ones still at work. The seduction never stopped. Let me ask you something. Genesis 6 says the sons of God saw the daughters of men, saw that they were beautiful, and took them. Enoch 19 says the daughters born from that union became something that does the same thing in reverse. If that is true, if the female spirits of that ancient corruption are still active in this world, still seducing, still drawing men toward destruction with a voice they cannot resist, the question is not whether they exist. The question is whether you would recognize the seduction before it was too late. Would you know if one of them was calling you? Or would you be drawn in like every man in every legend, fully warned, fully aware, and still unable to resist? Comment "I would know" or "the seduction is real," and subscribe, because the next text we are opening makes this look like the introduction.